Well, what a wonderful feature to see two of the all-time motorsport greats, and I think sporting greats, swapping disciplines. It's tough for Lewis to jump on a MotoGP bike. They've got such tiny contact patches on the road, and the chances of throwing it into the hedge are very, very high.
Amazing bravery. Right, okay. I was just tipped the wink, I think we both were, by Christian Horner. I think they quite like the fact that they're back on the front row. It's been a while.
Yeah, I hope he gets off the line. He's got a lovely swing then through turn one, which is not very far down. There's a left-hander being an anti-clockwise racetrack. And I really hope he can get ahead, so that Mercedes have got a lot of work to do and make them own their position. But
I've got to pole since they had pole back in Brazil 2,940 days ago. How'd you like that for a start? That's a long, long time, isn't it? It's about a quarter of a second. 2.5 wonderful. Okay, the Renault's a bit further back in the race for third, 12 points behind McLaren in turn, 10 points behind Racing Point, and outside the top 10 yesterday. Let's get their thoughts.
You guys were pretty confused with the lack of pace in quali. Been looking good all weekend, obviously off the back of your podium in Bahrain as well. Have we had it
forward as possible? And yeah, so you're aware, obviously, maybe where you are on track and who's in front or behind, but it doesn't really change the way you race, the way you approach it, your strategy. So yeah, especially starting where we are, I think there's only one kind
of blurring into one towards the end of the season, isn't it? But with regards to Esteban, obviously that's only the first time in the dry that he's out-qualified his teammate this year, but he's got closer all year. There's been definite signs of improvement. Remember when Daniel came into the team, he struggled, didn't he, for the first few races, coming to terms with that, Renault, but how have you charted Esteban's improvement?
Well, absolutely in the right.
There we go. As we said, that has been a United message all season. It began, didn't it, back in Austria, and now all the drivers respecting it as part of the day's run plan. So there we go. They've repositioned. Fly past as well of 2020. No fans in to see it. Let's hope that can change next year. But things looking a little bit better, aren't they, on that front? Let's hope so, because we'd love to see fans back at the races in 2021. Okay, I think what we'd all like to see from the comfort of your armchair today.
And then from there onwards, I think we can have a good race and have a bit of fun out there.
Formula One's done an amazing job to have us racing this year, and I'm just really grateful to be able to finish it off. Which has been an incredible year for us and a season for us as a team. I feel pretty chill right now, just can't wait for the race.
How would you reflect on the year?
Well, it's been a good year. I think you have to also look to your own performance, and I think there was an improvement compared to the year before again, and that's I think as a driver what you want. So we'll just try to...
Okay, pretty calm on the grid otherwise. Carlos Sainz's car seemingly got a bit hot on his laps to the grid, and if you just take a look in front of the rear axle, you can't see the tyres on it at the moment. You'll see a fan just pointed to the side of the side pod of the engine cover. The car got a little bit hot, and they've just been spending the last 5 minutes cooling it down. Otherwise, it's all last of chances for teammates who are soon to be ex-teammates to give themselves each other a slap on the back and wish themselves a good race. Charles Leclerc, Sebastian Vettel doing that, and further down the grid.
Okay, let's talk at the front, because yesterday, as we said, so tight between the three of them. Valtteri Bottas also with a point to prove today.
Very big point to prove. He's going to want to get on the back of those three difficult races he's had. He wants to get on the podium. He wants to stand on the top step. Him and Toto.
It's Sunday the 13th of December 2020. Welcome along to the seat at half a second slower per lap. The hard tyre only 0.8 of a second slower per. Brazil last year, his third pole in F1. Valtteri Bottas keeps him company on the front row ahead of 7th alongside Lance Stroll in the Racing Point. His first top 8 start since his pole ahead of his teammate Sebastian Vettel, who didn't reach Q3 in his final 13 races at Ferrari. And the Haas, Sergio Perez starts 19th in his final race for Racing Point, but he and Kevin Magnussen both get engine penalties and start on the back row. But let's head to the front. Max Verstappen then, what's a chance this afternoon for him to take victory, Martin, from his first pole this season.
Max versus the mighty Mercs with some tremendous supporting act.
Hard tyre could be bad news for the likes of Gasly, Stroll, Fiat, Albon and Norris, who start on the soft tyre and will be pitting that much earlier. They might come out onto the track, find themselves behind the Renault on a track that's difficult to overtake, not impossible, but you don't want to get stuck behind a Renault. Ask Fernando Alonso. He did that once upon a time.
All right, buddy. Whatever happens today, thank you for everything. Got one more dance, final dance.
Yep. Thank you, boys. 55 laps, everything we got.
The only Australian to race for the Renault team.
A very exciting 2022 car on its way. So yeah, a lot of change out there. Lots of love going on. Don't know why they didn't do that in the garage before they went out, but it's nice for us to be able to play out.
Absolutely. They formed a line at Ferrari as Sebastian Vettel came out into the pit lane, and a guard of honour for him in his 118th start for the team. 14 wins, of course, with the Scuderia. He's hoping, though, to avoid the final time ahead of the drivers. It's lights out, and away we go. Verstappen ahead of Bottas. Norris getting a good start, but behind Lewis Hamilton. Sainz and Albon neck and neck going into the first corner. Verstappen leads from Bottas, who once again gets all squirrely out of the first corner. Bottas ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. There's Norris, Albon, Sainz, and then Danny Kvyat. Charles Leclerc ahead of Sebastian Vettel. The two Ferraris running close as well. Into the first real big braking zone we go. Verstappen heads them. Alex Albon on the soft compound tyres, trying to get at Lando Norris. Around the hairpin we go. Max Verstappen has aced the start as down the inside goes the Renault of Daniel Ricciardo on the Ferrari at the hairpin, and he's got himself ahead of Sebastian Vettel.
We have 20 cars remaining in this race, and once again, for the third consecutive weekend, Valtteri Bottas struggling on it.
But as you say, Martin, didn't show it enough throughout the season as Verstappen now sets the fastest lap of the race. 1.8 seconds clear as he crossed the line of Valtteri Bottas. Make that now 2 seconds and out of DRS range. But Charles Leclerc is hot, as you can see, on Sebastian Vettel's tail behind the Renault of Daniel Ricciardo. Sebastian Vettel holding his teammate, keeping him at bay at the moment, but this could be a tasty little scrap throughout this.
Behaved, wasn't it, through the first few corners? Not even a bit of a... Oh, somebody was getting a bit anxious at the back there.
Pietro Fittipaldi, who locked up and came steaming in a bit late into that corner.
Not even a banging of wheels, though, was there?
So they realise it's the final races. There's no one told these drivers. This is on board with Valtteri Bottas, and as you mentioned, Martin, got very squirrely coming out of this corner. Whoa.
Yeah, Lewis is coming up the inside at that point, but Bottas finding enough grip because of the layout, the nature of it.
There's no way he's doing a one-stop, says Alex Albon on Lando Norris. He's overdriving at the moment. Alex Albon is pushing him all the way and reckons that he's going to wear out his tyres. Lando Norris a little bit sooner than he would have wanted. We'll keep an eye on that. And in the meantime, head to take5 out his tyres. Lando Norris a little bit sooner than he would have wanted. We'll keep an eye on that. And in the meantime, head to take5 and bite them in this race. And are we seeing evidence at the moment that the Mercedes have had to turn that power down?
Do you have any pace in hand, Esteban? Do you have pace in hand?
It's going to be yes.
I do.
It's going to be yes.
Yes, and he's not coming past me. No, thank you very much indeed. Are we seeing evidence that the Red Bull has a power advantage over those Mercedes tonight?
It looks that way, doesn't it? Unless they're playing the longer game at Mercedes. But at the moment, Lewis, the DRS, because it goes through the DRS detection zone in the lead, but easily back up the inside. Albon's very good in this wheel-to-wheel combat, isn't he? Yeah. And that's an important move for him and for Red Bull. But he's already 11 seconds off his teammate up front, so he needs to really get his head down now.
Charges on then for Alex Albon. We can head to Sky Race Control for the first time this evening. Anthony Davidson.
Yeah, I'm watching this fight between the two Renault drivers, and they've just been on to Ricciardo saying that he's probably going to let you by soon. So Ricciardo said...
The motorhome when we go to Australia.
Yeah, that's shocking, isn't it? That's a real shocker considering the resource that they have, but Ferrari are very confident about their engine next year.
And now show us your pushing level. Let's start to close that gap.
Hamilton is starting to close the gap on Valtteri Bottas. So 14th for Perez and 7th for Stroll, who's up 1 place from the start, and Sergio Perez, who started at 19th, is now up into 14th spot. Ted, to you.
Just watching the Ferrari pit wall, I can't see any histrionics there. Mattia Binotto, the team principal, not here this weekend. Watching back in Italy, must be grinding his teeth. It's difficult to know what pace Leclerc could do, Crofty, on that medium tyre, but Seb's not letting him have a go, and it looks...
They'll have to slow down to an earliest time of arrival at various loops around the track. It ought to be just press the button, open the clutch, and push that it should be recoverable quite easily without needing a full safety car, but you can just see the frustration there for Sergio Perez.
In his last race with Racing Point, could be his last race in Formula One, at least in terms of next season as well. That is absolute heartbreak. Point team, Otmar Safnauer, the team principal, we'll go to the mode.
Okay. I'm off.
Otmar, I've just seen you with your head in the hands, and I'm not surprised. Exactly what happened, do you know?
Checo just reported loss of power, so we don't know why.
This is heartbreak for you, though, but you've still got 1 car left in the race.
Yeah, we still have Lance is driving a brilliant race, had a good overtake on the Alpha.
Because Ricciardo is...
on the hard tyre.
That doesn't feel like a good strategy.
Ricciardo's on the hard tyre, so he stayed out there. And Lando Norris did pit. Sebastian Vettel, Charles Leclerc on the hard, and then the medium didn't pit. And they move up into 7th and 8th. That's worked well for Ferrari, because this early stop here is not part of their strategy at all. They've got Martin Brundle, they've got track position.
They have, but it's all about jeopardy now, isn't it, as to how far those that have stopped can get their tyres, can they get them to the end. But I have to say that white mark medium tyre it's the full safety car then. They haven't been
to that a few times now, and
yeah, and for me it was
that he stays 3rd, and in his position, why didn't they leave him out? It's a really weird one. Yes, okay, he might have got, well, he would have got track position, well, it would have been tight, but he would have got track position on Bottas and Verstappen, but it was worth a risk for Lewis Hamilton to stay out. Yes, he would have had to
2 seconds, Ted.
Give me a bit of take me through where exactly I'm losing, because it feels like everywhere. Car's just not turning.
Okay, copy. Hopefully with that reset on balance, should turn a bit better now.
Yeah, for a team strategy, I think it's probably the right thing to pit Bottas and Lewis together, Valtteri and Lewis.
Much Christian. Alex Albon, as you can see in the Live Drivers' Championship, up into 6th at the moment.
In the balance.
Yeah, copy that, Lewis.
Is that floor okay?
Just have a look through it.
Hamilton concerns with the performance and the handling of his car, but there's no time for concern. He's going to have to get racing again in a moment. The safety car coming in at the end of this lap.
They talked about a balance change on Lewis's car, so they've obviously added some front wing to it. He said he can't get it to turn. You can do that in the pit stop pretty quickly, of course. So, yeah, it's even Stevens, and I think Mercedes have no answer to the early pace of Max Verstappen and Red Bull, and particularly Lewis. Already 3.4 seconds off the lead. He is not happy inside that car today, is he?
He's certainly
so
not.
Far anyway.
Behind the Mercedes and Red Bull, Lando Norris is in DRS range of Daniel Ricciardo. Carlos Sainz is in DRS range of Sebastian Vettel. Lance Stroll not only in DRS range of Charles Leclerc, but now ahead of Charles Leclerc as well. The DRS working well, but now Leclerc gets the opportunity to fight back. There's another detection zone there, and the Ferrari
unnecessarily slowly in the pit lane. That's the usual kind of thing for Carlos Sainz, but we'll see whether that happens. But I'm loving this fight between the future teammates, Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris.
Hang on, Ted.
You're doing a great job. Well done.
Encouragement for Vettel.
Yeah. Leave them out there. Go on, let's see what they can do.
Hang on, he's under pressure now. Carlos Sainz has got DRS. Sebastian Vettel just showing Carlos Sainz how you defend in a Ferrari. He's going to get that car next season, is Carlos Sainz.
But of course they haven't stopped. So the Ferrari's only chance now is that the front runners run out of tyres in the closing 10 laps of the Grand Prix in terms of getting a handful of points. Ted,
Just to finish on the Ricciardo Norris now has done, what, 4 racing laps on the hard tyres. So the opening sort of good phase of them, the juice of them at the early stage of their life has gone. But just bear in mind, Ricciardo hasn't pitted yet. I know we've said that, just worth remembering. So Ricciardo's going to have some kind of easy break, maybe another virtual...
Hurt him a bit.
Yeah. If we can get through Ricciardo, it makes our race easier.
Probably the understatement of the evening. Teammates, of course, for next year. Here goes Lance Stroll, once again trying to get past Charles Leclerc, and this time, will he be able to make it stick? That's the question, because DRS then comes back into the equation for Charles Leclerc. He didn't have it to defend last time, he's got it to attack this time. So 20 kilometres an hour, is it enough? No, to get past the fellow Italian team of AlphaTauri, so the Ferrari will have to just stick now to 11th place.
I don't know if they're asking the right question, but they certainly don't have any answer at Mercedes to Verstappen's pace at any point in this Grand Prix, because he's pulling out 3/4 tenths of a second per lap relatively easily, and particularly in the third sector as well, as Christian Horner was pointing out earlier on, and that kind of
gives a boost through the engine and actually, propels the car forward. But what Mercedes are finding, because they've had some unreliability with this motor generator unit, is that they have to actually reduce the duty cycle through it. They just need to treat it with cotton wool, effectively. And that's what they're having to do. So they can't work it as hard as they normally do. And that's where the deficit is. If they are down on power a little bit, that's where it is. I have asked the team, okay, how much are you missing then on the power, having to treat this MG UK with cotton wool? And they won't tell me, because obviously that's a race-critical amount of information.
Excitement, just an inevitability when it comes to overtaking at the end of that straight. And Esteban Ocon getting past Charles Leclerc and staying ahead of Charles Leclerc, who I think has finally come into the pits at a point with what looked like transmission problems.
So I haven't heard anything from him, so no major complaints.
I think Lewis is asking that because he's just slowly but surely closing the gap to his teammate. The gap now is about 1.8 seconds. It was about 2.5 a few laps ago, and Hamilton's just starting to make an impression on his teammate.
Yeah, you get 1,000
faster than Lewis Hamilton on the last lap to show that he hasn't got any issues whatsoever. Anthony Davidson, to you.
Yeah, so Max has been on the radio asking, is Lewis catching Valtteri? So he's obviously aware that somehow Bottas is his buffer at this stage, and I was just riding on board with Lewis, and I think what he's doing, he doesn't obviously want to damage these hard tyres because he's got to try and take them through to the end of the race. So if he gets
in terms of pace to those behind him, including the likes of Lance Stroll, and I would imagine Renault are looking to find enough pace from Ricciardo to pit him and get him into a gap just behind Stroll, maybe behind or in front of Stroll, maybe in front of Vettel, if he can go that much longer as well. His pace is certainly strong at the moment. Watch Daniel Ricciardo at the end of this race. Ooh,
big lock up there.
Racing Point, who've lost 15 points this season, of course, after the FIA ruled at Silverstone.
I don't think these tyres are going all the way to the end.
Okay, copy.
That they were running illegal brake ducts at the rear of the car. Boy, would they love those 15 points back at the moment, because it looks like they're going to concede third place as it stands presently.
Yeah, and there may yet still be a penalty for Sainz, of course.
This is Charles Leclerc trying to make his way, and successfully Leclerc, as we mentioned, working his way through the field. This is Nicholas Latifi ahead of him. You would expect the Ferrari to be ahead by the time they get to the braking zone, and it is.
Yeah, and you could see the Williams with the red lights flicking on the back as it starts to harvest and clipping and harvesting power at the end of the straight as they're trying to replenish the battery.
Latifi passed, Kevin Magnussen lined up next. Magnussen in his final race for the Haas team, who celebrate the 100 Grand Prix in Formula One. For Kevin, ability and to see a lot further than the rest of the world was shown.
Yeah, I tried to tell you at the time that he definitely held up the car behind him. That's a fact. He did hold up the car behind him. I didn't know who it was at the time, but I've seen that video clip. Well, I've seen the video longer than what they clipped away from there. They cut away from it too early. The bit I've seen, he definitely lifts off the throttle and does slow down the car behind. I didn't realise that there was a position change because of it.
And there might be a position change here as well, because Pierre Gasly has gone down the inside of Lance Stroll, and he has forced that out for Tauri past the racing point. They did touch as Gasly went through, and Lance Stroll down into 10th now with Gasly up into 9th. It was a bold move.
So are you saying, Anthony, clearly trying to look after his tyres?
I'll just try to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, copy, Max.
It's almost like he was answering your last statement.
Yeah, I think he's got it on rails. You'll not see him spinning up the rear wheels or attacking the apex of the corners too much, and see if he can eke those to the end. But kind of whatever Mercedes does now, McLaren and Red Bull have got the luxury of reacting a lap later to it.
So we're waiting for a spark after the race, because it's all been done and dusted then. For me, I want it sorted now.
Stroll 0.8 behind with DRS.
Okay, I'll get eaten up.
I'd want it sorted now, Martin, so that you can then let the race run its course. But maybe that moment has passed as well.
Well, it's clearly not a slam dunk, is it? But otherwise they'd have given him a penalty. So they want to look more closely at the data, talk to the drivers involved. But this was a regulation that came in so that you couldn't hold the entire pack up, so that you got a...
He could well come out in about 7th place. Go on to the soft compound tyre maybe for 15 or so laps at the end.
I'm slowing down now. Tyres are going down.
Copy, stay out, stay out.
20 laps to go, Seb. I bet he can't wait to get out of that car. It's been a miserable season for him, hasn't it?
Yeah. Stay out, and maybe stay out for long enough to help your teammate, who's at least, from the messages we've been getting, has brought a smile to people's faces, and that's great.
Any preference from your side on plan A or plan C?
No preference, probably A.
Understood.
I always prefer plan B myself. Good tunes from that particular artist, but no, it's been great to have your company with us. And it's for Lewis Hamilton, well, it's another season with another World Championship and only 17 races, but he's guaranteed, even if he didn't race this weekend, Martin, to win by over 100 points, and it's the largest winning margin of his champion laps ago. That's a...
Okay, so tyre temperatures are a little bit on the low side for this compound, Max, so just be wary on the brakes especially.
That's a really good stint by Daniel Ricciardo there, 40 laps on the hard compound tyre. Things have played into his hands a bit, Martin, but 7th place now, to the end he goes on fresh tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. He's made that happen by stretching that first stint out. But if Max is starting to lose tyre, and Lewis Hamilton has now had 2 track limits at turn.
Seconds behind Carlos Sainz. Sainz and Norris going along very nicely for McLaren.
Now Stroll's in free air. He's lapping similar pace to the leaders. 41.8 last time around, 41.4 for Verstappen, 41.9, 1 minute 41.9 for Bottas. So he has got pace in the car, but he's back in 9th right now.
Just wonder what he's done on this lap though, because apparently what we've seen on our screen missed the apex at turn 9. So
yeah,
exit of that chicane, maybe he's just overcooked it a bit.
Probably expect they could clear Alex Albon if they had to with a fresh set of tyres. So and to put, if Verstappen starts really running out of tyres in the last half dozen laps.